Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 39 of the Herald's Horn here, deep in enemy territory at the Saber Den. On this episode, Emma and I are just chatting it up about a few different kind of lighter things. There's not like news this week, but we are going to talk about the regional championship, and we are also going to talk about, of course, some of the new cards that have been spoiled, and we, as always, hopefully have a letter to the editor. Without any further ado, let's just jump straight into this episode. Hello, it's time for the Herald's Horn, part of the One Shot Network. My name is Cal Jones, and today I am joined by the wonderful Emma. Say hello, Emma.
Hello, Emma.
Emma, hello. How are you? Once again, it's been a moment. You're a very busy woman. It's great to have you on the show.
Yes, I'm in sunny Roanoke right now, still on vacation. Just going to see my partner Ross for a bit. So yeah, we're recording this from Ross's bedroom. As you can see, the SCG medals and classic plaques from events that he's won. There's also some trophies in here as well because he won a few of those. So they're not mine. I wish they were mine, but they're not mine.
Maybe one day. Maybe.
Emma. Who knows?
You're in the SCG trophy-studded bedroom. I am in the beautiful office in rural New York of Gold Sabertooth. Very ironic that of all, I got you on the podcast while you were traveling, and yes. I myself am traveling. But no matter what, the Herald's Horn. Let's continue. Let's run the song. And welcome back. Before we get started, I wanted to thank our first tier patrons really quick. Thank you, Bald Rald. We appreciate your support really much. Really much? Okay. If you love the show, we would appreciate your support over on Patreon. You get exclusive content. I'll send you a sticker in the mail. You can argue with Emma in the Discord. You can argue with Dan in the Discord, and you can have nice, pleasant conversations with Emma in the Discord. How about that, Emma?
If you join the Discord as part of the Patreon thing, the first thing you have to do when you join the Discord is say hello, Emma.
Yes.
Them the rules.
Yes, definitely. So if that interests you, join the Patreon. Little as $5 a month. I'll send you 2 really cool stickers in the mail. We would love to have you. Well, this is normally where we would jump into the news, but I'm going to be real. No news this week. So instead, we're going to jump directly into Constructed Corner Modern Edition. Welcome to Constructed Corner Modern Edition, the part of the show where we talk about a really big modern constructed tournament. It was RC Charlotte. Emma, what went down? You were there. You were our reporter on the floor.
I was, so I had 2 things to do at Charlotte. So I wasn't working it. It was like a rare Magic event I can go to for funsies, which means I can just like chill. Like I don't have to do anything. It's very strange because I'm like, oh, I should do this content stuff. I could write about this. And it's like, no, Emma, this is vacation. Stop. Yep. Like
you're just chilling.
Pull the brakes. Just chilling. So there was 2 things I had to do this weekend. Past weekend was one, play some pauper with a few people. And the other is just to be the lunch run for my husband who was playing in the RC to like basically grab him lunch between rounds. Yeah. So
how did he end up doing at the RC?
So Ross wasn't qualified going into the RC.
Oh, sure. He LCQ grinded?
He paid the LCQ on Friday, fired the first bullet and got through. So nice. For context, an LCQ is like a last chance qualifier. Cause like there's like modern LCQs on the Friday. It's basically single limb. So if you win 5 rounds, like there's a 5-round event. If you win all 5, you get an invite to the RC the next day. There was a couple of limited LCQs as well. Fire Shoes, Robert Taylor also fired his bullet and got in as well. Like I think that was A for Drift Sealed, and you win 4 rounds. If you win all those rounds, you get an invite to the RC the day after. So Robert also got in, which is great. So yeah, Ross fired off his first bullet, 5-0. He finished 11-4 over the weekend, which just puts him out of the bubble for a PT invite. If there isn't, unless like the pass downs are significant. So I think he needs like 7 pass downs to get an invite. Gotcha. So he won't know unless Wizards randomly email going, sup, you have an invite to Pro Tour Final Fantasy in Vegas. Like, there's no way of knowing. He thinks he doesn't have it. Like, you can't, like, assume based on that. But he was also on Breach, which was, like, the deck of the weekend, the deck of, like, the last month, like, the deck of since Mox Opal was unbanned, basically, which was in December, so.
I was going to say, we've already talked about it on the show here before, I think, but post unbans, post Mox Opal unban, Underworld Breach was kind of like the deck to beat, and now it just feels like the undisputed tier 0, probably too good, people waiting for some kind of ban type of situation.
It's the Hogak situation. If you're not playing Hogak in Modern, then you just don't play Modern. Like,
yep. And let's take a step back here for a second, much like you took a step back on the LCQ. If you don't know, listeners, RCs, what are we talking about? RC is the regional championship. There are 2 of them for every Pro Tour. Is that true now? Yeah, in the US.
So there's 2 of them in the US, yes. They've split it into 2 because I think one of them was close to 2,000 people or something like that when it was DreamHack, and it was just unattainable for like everybody.
So the regional championship, there are 2 of them for each Pro Tier. Here in the US, there are also several regional championships spread out between different regions of the globe, less than there should be, but that's a topic for another day. And you qualify for the regional championship by playing in regional championship qualifiers, often at your local game store. If you have a decent sized game store near you, there is probably a regional qualifier or 3 coming up that you could participate in if you so choose. And there is also, obviously, like Emma said, the LCQs. And if you finish in such and such a spot inside of the top X of these formats, you get a Pro Tour invite, and then also the finalists also get a Worlds invite. Speaking of finalists, RC Charlotte, it was a modern event. It was taken down by the one and only Jessie Robkin. Playing Underworld Breach, she brought a version of the list that was very good in the mirror, and she was also someone who showed up to the event with no invite. She fired her bullet. She also won in her first LCQ of the weekend. Real classic. She was like, all right, she literally had a tweet from several days ago, a Blue Sky post from several days ago that was like, I don't think my lifestyle is really like, it doesn't let me play competitive Magic anymore. This is kind of my last hurrah. And then she won the entire regional championship, obviously qualifying for the Pro Tour and also qualifying her for Worlds. She was on Breach along with 5 other people in the top 8. There was also a Boros Energy player and an Amulet player in the top 8. Day 2 in general, 30% of the field was Breach. The next closest deck was Orzhov and Azorius Blink kind of combined together. Those are kind of like a bucket of like Ketramos, the new god, a bucket of Ketramos brews. Interesting card, cool card. Interesting to see how that turns out after the bans and all that kind of stuff comes down. But story of the weekend was simply Underworld Breach was way too strong. Jessie, one of the best Breach players out there, one of the OG3 Breach evangelists, along with your husband Ross, and then also Corey, who was busy commentating for the weekend, I believe, rather than participating. And so, if anyone in the room is going to be taking that down, I would honestly expect Ross or Jessie to do it. And Jessie did it.
It is such a Jessie Robkin thing to say, this is like going to be my last hurrah playing Breach, because it's probably going to get banned on March 31st. This is my last hurrah getting to play the deck that I've helped innovate and just like play over the years. And of course, she just spent the longest time possible playing that deck over the weekend. And like, not only like winning the LCQ 5-0, like first go, like first bullet, also just like, I think she only lost like 2 games over the weekend, like 2 matches over the weekend. Yep. So like that, like it's like 20-2, I think she went over the weekend, which is insane.
Which is truly, truly nuts. Truly
nuts.
It
might be like 19-2 on 1, because I believe she drew like the last round to IB.
As you do. You got to rest.
Like, that is an insane run for like 3 days of Magic. Also just playing Breach, which isn't like an easy deck to play. Sure, it's gotten a little easier because we have Mox Opal that just kind of smooths everything out, but like it's just such a fairy tale story, and just like I could not have wanted anyone else to win this. Sorry, Ross, but
yes, definitely
yeah, it's just like perfect. Like from a narrative point, it's just fantastic.
Yep. Also going to Worlds, the other finalist, Corey Burkhart, who Jesse defeated. Also an SCG Players Tour winner, a GP winner in his own right. Another feather in Corey's cap, getting to go to Worlds, qualify for the Pro Tour. I'm sure that's great for Corey, but it's all about Jesse this weekend. Who am I kidding? Jesse winning, getting to play her favorite deck that she's worked on for so long, that she was always beating the drum about being really good, even before the Mox Opal unban. She gets to go to Worlds. She gets to go to the Pro Tour. Awesome to see her back on it. But I think the other big story, kind of already mentioned it, Modern is due for a shakeup, and there is another really big Modern tournament this coming weekend, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple of events coming. So you've got the Magic Spotlight Series in Utrecht, which is the second Spotlight event of the year, the first one being Atlanta at the start of the year, which I believe was standard. And the Utrecht event is Modern. And so we saw a whole ton of Breach this past weekend in Charlotte. You can expect to see more Breach next weekend in Utrecht, just because it is clearly the deck to beat. It's a very Hogak situation where if you're not playing like Hogak, which was a very powerful card back in Modern Horizons 1 that used Faithless Loot and all this graveyard synergy, if you're not playing like the busted deck, like you might as well just not play, like, to be honest. And honestly, you just need to get really good with the mirror as well. There was a lot of games over the weekend in Charlotte that went to time just because of the mirrors. Like on average, it was like a 15-minute sort of like delay every round just because everybody was playing Breach.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. It's one of those really tough positions where, well,
it's also really awkward.
It's a really weird combo deck. You're playing it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just like people don't want to buy Mox Opals either because,
yeah,
like Mox Opal's going to be fine in the on like the end of March ban. Like I think Underworld Breach is pretty much gone. I think this is pretty much it. To be honest, I'll be very surprised if Wizards turn around going, we're going to ban Grinding Station because that kills the deck. And it's like, you kind of need to ban the Yorkmoss wheel.
I think it is fine to ban one of the most broken card designs in history. Yes. Just get that clip, just clip it out of there. Granted, it's a deck that also plays Mox Opal, so what am I saying? But,
yeah, it's
Underworld Breach, snip, snip, snip.
Yeah, it's also wild to me how it's like banned in Pioneer back when Pioneer was just going through this very sort of aggressive ban list like weekly. And it's also banned in Legacy because it was very similar to York's Will. So I'm like, how is it in Modern? If it's too good for Legacy and too good for Pioneer, how is it still here in Modern sort of thing? I felt like it could have got a courtesy ban just going, yeah, it's done this in these formats. It's probably going to do something silly here. Let's nip it in the bud. But,
and then it's probably also where they can very reasonably say, I think, hey, everyone, just so you know, we're banning Breach here. Obviously, Mox Opal is an extremely strong card. We're going to let it go. But just so you know, look out. If it's still a problem by the next time it comes around, we might have to blow up those $200 Mox Opals. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, it's just everyone's gravitated towards Breach because it's like, oh my god, it's another Mox for my Mox Amber combo spell deck, which is like insane. So you can expect Breach to get banned on the 31st. There was talk about Boros Energy like before like Breach became super good again, but the thing is, Energy is really bad against Breach, so Energy's been on the downswing, so you can't really ban anything from Energy just because Breach has been so prevalent. So like you have to wait for the next ban window to possibly ban something from Energy if it comes back up again. It's like this ban coming up just feels like a bit of a not like a missed opportunity, but it just feels like a clean slate. It's like we have to ban this problem card, then see how everything kind of settles, and then we could take the actual action we wanted to do when we unbanned the cards in December.
Because the deck is like so good that it's hard to tell how the rest of it will shake out.
Yeah. And like you got this Ketramose deck, which honestly feels a bit mopey. Like I'm not like, it feels like it's missing like a card to make it really good because it sees a ton of representation, but it hasn't really won a big event. It's just there. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out post Breach ban as well.
Yep, it'll be interesting to see. Like, obviously, the meta as it currently stands is a bit tainted because it is so affected by Breach. The deck exists, the format exists around Breach, but there are some really interesting, like, kind of newer decks that people have started playing. Like, people are playing Titan again a lot. There's the Eldrazi
Mill's really
ramp
good.
deck. Yeah, a lot of people are playing Mill.
Jake Beardsley, Pro Tour Lord of the Rings winner, qualified for the Pro Tour this weekend by playing Dimir Mill. Like,
Hell yeah.
he played it. He was just like, this was kind of a bit. I just did it for a laugh, but it's like, yeah, I'm back on the Pro Tour, and it's like,
Yeah,
cool.
why not? Yeah, why not? Just a good player. Go gadget. Good. Overlord of the Baelmerk being printed has like turned modern Death and Taxes Blink into a thing again, which I think to some extent, that's probably a little more of an anti-breach deck than just a fine deck by my low level understanding. But hey, modern, it'll get a shakeup.
Passive Exile is really good against Breach.
Yes.
If you have Relics and Ketramos, like that game plan's already good for you. And if you can hit anyone else that's trying to use the graveyard, which is very common in Modern because we have fetch lands and so forth, just like having that in deck in your main board just seems good. Like,
Yep, definitely agree. So that was RC Charlotte. I would have talked a little bit more about the metagame breakdown, some different cool decks, but we're recording a little earlier than we would just because of circumstances, and it's not on MTG Top 8 yet. So, and that's the easiest way for me to look at stuff. So sorry, everyone. That's any more Modern or RC Charlotte thoughts before we move on, Emma?
no, like the event was great. SCG run a tight ship with these events. Charlotte is like an S tier city to have an event. Like the food scene's really good. We discovered this food hall called Optimist Hall, which is insane. It just has like 30 different food places. There's like a couple of bars, and yeah, like the food was just incredible. It's like on the Saturday when I had to run and get Ross Lodge, I literally just got him some like vegetarian dumplings from this place, and it was real good.
Any of the convention centers that have a really close food hall, Charlotte, Philly, Columbus, all of those are just like, they're just like one tier higher in my mind, because like the one thing you never have to, it's nice to go out and figure out dinner and have a nice dinner with people and all that kind of stuff. But man, when I'm at an event, even if I'm just at an event casually, I don't want to spend an hour of my time or an hour and a half of my middle of my day trying to figure out lunch. I just want to not think about it, eat something decent that's not a $14 convention center hot dog, and get back to it. And those kind of options are awesome.
It is like a 5-minute drive from like a 5-minute Uber or like Lyft to the like the hall, but it's just worth it. And
for
like,
sure.
It feels like every time I wandered around, there was just like more stuff. Like I got some tres leches cake, which turned out to be excellent, and it's just like I was just happy to go here every day and just try something different.
Oh, definitely. Well, let's keep giving our opinions, Emma. It's time for us to move on to the letter to the editor. Welcome to the letter to the editor, the part of the show where we answer your thoughts, your concerns, your questions. We grapple with, I don't know what. Anyways, if you want to submit
your agony aunts, basically, come to us and vent. We will help you.
Or ask us interesting questions. If you want to submit a letter to the editor, there are 2 easy ways to do so. Number 1, if you are a patron, we have a pinned post at the top of the Patreon where you can simply leave a comment and we will get to it next in line. Boom, jump the queue. Or the old-fashioned way, you can email editorial@heraldshorn.com and I will get you on the show eventually. All right, but speaking of Patreon submissions to the letter to the editor, we have a submission from one of our earliest patrons, Ty. What's up, Ty? He says, I was doing some "oh no, I'm old" math recently and caught that Modern was announced in 2011 and Pioneer in 2019. I cannot believe that Pioneer is that old. Holy moly. If we treat that as a start of a regular cadence, we're due for another new format in 2027. Would you be interested in that? Is that just poopier Pioneer with Spongebob now? Tangentially, I've always liked the idea of standard Brawl, but I've never had the library depth on Arena to really do anything with it. How interesting do you think Standard/Pioneer/Modern Commander would be in paper? PEDH is rad enough to have me curious. Okay, kind of 2 questions here. Okay, Ty, yeah. You can have 2 questions in your letter to the editor. We'll allow it. Would I be interested in a new format in 2027? No, I think that's I don't know.
It depends, right?
Yeah.
It's like, is this something Wizards are going to create, like Pioneer, or are we talking something community focused, something like pre-modern, for example, like, or $30 vintage?
I feel like the vibe is Wizards created.
Okay.
And if it's like a Wizards created format on the same schedule, the main option available to us kind of seems like what was kind of the cutoff of it would be like almost like Ixalan through modern times, maybe. If you did kind of the same time buckets that modern and Pioneer operate on. I was
thinking like Wizards would not do this because it would be a nightmare, but a pre-modern Horizons, so you play modern without the Horizons cards, or any of like the LTR cards. But then Wizards admitting, this stuff's a little too good, so we created like another format to make it fun, which is not a good thing to do. Something like that could be cool. I thought you could do a Universes Beyond only like format, so you just play cards just from Universes Beyond sets. I don't know.
A Universes, like in that same vein, I think a Universes Beyond less in general, kind of like Pioneer-ish format could be fun. I don't know. It feels like we're kind of full up on traditional formats. And
like look at Pioneer, that's just not seeing a ton of attention right now, and that was curated in 2019 because we're so like siloed on standard and modern because of all these events, and like having another event that could be part of that cycle of RCs, it just doesn't seem great.
I think we're at the point where we have 4 major competitive formats in Pioneer, Modern, Standard, and Limited. I think that it is quote unquote correct for Standard and to some extent Limited to get the lion's share of the attention. And then that only leaves so much of a pie for Modern and Pioneer to fight over. I don't think there's a world where, I mean, maybe 6 years from now or whatever, we'll start to see Modern kind of phase out in popularity and all that kind of stuff. Maybe not. And maybe Pioneer will take up the old role that Modern's always had, but the vibes are completely different. But I think I am not interested in a new format in 2027, at least in the vein of like, here's a new constructed format with a similar conceit as
I just don't know what you
Pioneer,
would do.
Modern.
Like, it feels very Goldilocks. Like, Standard's very new, Modern's very old, and Pioneer's just right in the middle. I'm not sure what else you would put in there to fill in the gaps.
Well, it's what Ty said. It's like poopier Pioneer with SpongeBob now. Yeah, that's probably what it would be. I think you're right, Ty. So the second question here, how interesting do you think Standard / Pioneer / Modern Commander would be in paper? I think like Modern Legal Commander would be gas, or like Pioneer. I think Pioneer Legal Commander specifically would be gas. Get the fetch lands out of here. No Universes Beyond stuff until Final Fantasy is legal. You know, just like this very kind of idyllic, limited but still pretty large card pool type of thing. Cool
deck building clause, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. I think something like that would be really fun. Standard Commander would probably be a little tight. I don't know how well that would work.
You would have to do Brawl, I think, which is not really something that they tried it in paper once and it didn't really work. So
I've always kind of wished that like Brawl was a popular standard, like a popular paper format, because like the ideal of a slightly smaller, easier to manage, easier to brew for, standard legal, very recently focused commander format that would shake stuff up a bit. I would be very interested in that. It never really took off, but I think the next closest thing I'd be interested in is like Pioneer Commander or something like that.
It's what I wish March of the Machine, the Aftermath was. It was just like 4 Brawl decks.
Yep.
Like just Brawl decks of like Nahiri or whoever, or the Desparked Planeswalkers.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been cool.
The lack of Brawl precons never really helped.
Yes.
Nothing instantly legitimizes a format, I think, like Wizards making precons for it, because then it's just that much easier for you to get into. Like
how Pioneer Signet became a thing. It was in that
exactly.
Precons.
There were Brawl precons. Holy moly, you're right.
That's where what's his face? The dragon.
Corvold. Hullen, Shalane, however you say it.
Shalane, Corvold.
Corvold.
One of the fairies.
Yeah, Alayla and the Night Woman. who costs way too much.
Oh, Sir Gwyn.
Yes, Sir Gwyn. Yes.
Angus Sir Gwyn.
So,
could be a Dark Souls character as well.
Oh, definitely. So, Ty, thank you for this letter to the editor. We would love more letters to the editor. Thank you, everyone who's submitted them thus far. I guess it's time for us to move on to by far the most consistent part of the show. Now that we've skipped the news a couple of times,
Speaking of poopy pioneer with SpongeBob,
it's time to move on to the product watch. Welcome to the Product Watch, the part of the show where we talk about all of the Magic the Gathering cards that have been announced or released or are going to be released soon or all that kind of stuff since the last time we were on the show. Emma, there are actually sneakily a lot of different things I think we could talk about because you haven't been on the show in a minute, but we're keeping this episode a little bit shorter than normal. So we are just keeping it to the newest of the new stuff. Actually, I'll pick your brain about some here in a second, but SpongeBob Secret Lair is announced. We've got SpongeBob, Plankton, Sandy, Patrick, Mr. Krabs, Squidward, Days as a meme, Counterspells a meme, like all the different
I
meme
love the
art,
Days and Counterspell.
all of the different meme art from SpongeBob that's come up over the last decade. Boom, they're here as non-creature spells. And I think the top level news of this set, of this Secret Lair, is that they are not new mechanically unique SpongeBob cards. They are all reskins. So like SpongeBob is the 5-color Joda. That's cute. Plankton is Skrelv. Sandy is Toski, Bearer of Secrets. Patrick is a card that I had never heard of, but he's a huge overcosted Rakdos vanilla creature.
Yeah, also a legend, I think.
Yes.
Might be a legend as well. It's just, apparently it's just some really old card and everyone's just like, this is perfect. It's just so Patrick. Like,
Mr. Krabs is Grizzlax. No, not Grizzlax. Squidward is Grizzlax. Mr. Crab is some legendary octopus creature that I don't
all I've seen is that
Toxrill's
Toxrill's reprinted and all the Commander players are like just hissing at seeing Toxrill again.
Toxrill is Gary. Gary is Toxrill.
Why not?
I don't have a lot of thoughts about this. I think it's fun. I think it's cute. I think at the end of the day, I am pretty much just happy that these are reskins rather than new bespoke cards, you know?
Yeah. This is what a Secret Lair should be, in my opinion. It's very similar to the Monty Python ones. They were just all really fun reprints, just cool reskins of like from iconic moments from Monty Python. Again, like these are cool, but hopefully people can get a hold of them because they're not print to demand. So I'm looking forward to seeing complaints on April 14th when they go live that people can't get a hold of them.
Yeah, and I'm sure, especially if they're fairly limited, I assume the resale value on these could pretty quickly get pretty high. None of them are like actually like super duper widely played cards except for Days and Counterspell were the two cards that jumped out as me.
I think
and Toxrill
might be like the most in terms of value.
Yes.
Toxrill is just like a really obnoxious commander, but also a really expensive card.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. It does
I
seem
really
like
want
people...
the counter spells though, and I'm not a blue mage.
No, me either. I'd also buy the Knight's Whisper. It's like the super hyper frustrated Squidward face that goes around. I am still a Knight's Whisper enjoyer to this day. I love putting Knight's Whisper and Sign in Blood into my commander decks.
Hell yeah!
Everyone else is like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, obviously,
cards.
I am paying 2 black to scry 2, draw 2, and lose 2 life. Oh, you see, I'm paying 1 and a black at instant speed to lose 2 and draw 2 cards. What are you doing?"
And I can Sign in Blood you, the opponent, as well.
It's target player. You're so right, Emma. And what is it? Read the Bones, 2 and a black, also target player. Woo-wee!
Love it.
Anyways. I am unironically more excited for the SpongeBob Secret Lair than I was before. We kind of talked about the SpongeBob Secret Lair when it was first teased on the show a long time ago. It's like the third most popular episode of the show of all time, probably because SpongeBob was in the thumbnail.
Yeah, because it was the Vegas preview, wasn't it? When they were talking about how Universes Beyond's going to be standard and like MSRP's coming back, and at the end it was just like, oh yeah, SpongeBob's going to be here, and it just kind of just like set the tone of everything, and the timing didn't seem great because people clearly frustrated with the whole Universes Beyond thing becoming standard, and it's like, oh yeah, here's this just random secret layer of SpongeBob, enjoy. And it's like,
and everyone's like, oh, that's the big reveal at the end, there's going to be a SpongeBob secret layer.
And it's like, is it standard legal? Like,
exactly. And so I think a lot of people have spent a lot of time in that intervening time being like, oh yeah, and here comes the SpongeBob secret layer, and we're going to have a really powerful new SpongeBob card that's going to wreck Legacy and all that kind of stuff. And so I am just, my hype level for them is just incidentally higher because, yeah, Universes Beyond reskin of cards, cool. Give those to me all day. I don't care. It just kind of works. What I prefer if it was more normal Magic cards. Once again, yes. What I prefer, a really cool reprint of Toxkey, a really cool new Days art. Sure, if that was the option available, that would be my choice. But as opposed to new, bespoke SpongeBob cards, I'll take reskins all day.
Especially in a product that is hard to get hold of.
Exactly.
And that is limited.
Exactly. And Dan, they were not able to be here today. Kind of last second realized they didn't have time to join us today, especially because we're recording on a different day. Normally, they said, please let the audience know that there was a lot of hooting and hollering and firing 6 shooters in the air enthusiastically for SpongeBob's secret lair at Mod and on HQ. I think they were also very excited both about the like meme art non-creature spells, and also because they were not new cards. They are just fun reprints. Emma, really quick before we go though, are you a big Final Fantasy fan?
Yes.
How you feeling so far?
I'm feeling cool. Like, it depends which Emma you're asking. Are you asking Emma, the Final Fantasy fan, or are you asking Emma, the TCG player, content editor who has to think about Magic quite a lot? Like, which one are you asking?
How about you give me both?
Cool. So let's start with me as the Final Fantasy fan. So I've been a fan of Final Fantasy since I was a kid. Final Fantasy 5 is my favourite one. 6 is the best one. And it is really cool to like just see the characters come to life in Magic. This game I've been playing for the last 10 years. It's really cool. Like, as a consumer, I'm like, yay, this is really exciting. This could be really cool to see this stuff. It's like, are they going to do a Gilgamesh card? Are they going to do a VV card? Are they going to do all the materia? Are they going to do, is there going to be a one-winged angel, Sephiroth of Final Fantasy 7? Stuff like that. Is there going to be a Knights of the Round Table card that takes 90 seconds to resolve because that cutscene in Final Fantasy 7 took forever to get through? Things like little Easter eggs like that I'm quite excited for. So yeah, as a casual fan of Magic, air quotes, really into it. As someone who works in the industry, I'm less excited just because of the premium pricing on the set, which was always going to happen because licensing fees are just a pain. You have to bake that into the price of product. It being a standard set, having this almost Modern Horizons like pricing isn't great, especially in the economic climate that we're currently in. That is very volatile, and it's probably going to get more volatile. And it's weird to think about because you're essentially paying for 2 things, but getting one because you're paying the licensing from Square and you're also paying for the product for Final Fantasy, but you're getting one thing. So it just feels kind of bad. But if you're really into Final Fantasy, you'll probably save up and try and, be a bit more cautious with your spending. I think my biggest problem about the whole thing is just the timing of all these announcements. It was Commander Bracket stuff one week, then it was Final Fantasy the week after, then it was Tarkir Dragonstorm stuff in Chicago, and then we got an IGN article about Spider-Man and the scene box, which is not standard legal by the way, but we got the scene box and the product range for that, and now we have SpongeBob SquarePants Secret Lair, and it's just within that as well, you can pre-order Edge of Eternities now as well. So in the last 2 weeks, you can pre-order 3 Magic sets, one being a premium price. And Tarkir is out in April. So it's I'm a bit worried for Tarkir Dragonstorm, honestly, because, with Final Fantasy just having this big price.
And it doesn't have room to breathe.
Right. And the pre-orders have been massive for Final Fantasy. Like, I spoke to the store owner at my LGS. They were like, yeah, we've hit our allocation for pre-cons like day 3 of everything being revealed. Like, we can order more, but we can't guarantee it from distro just based on like average amount we get for like Commander pre-cons. And that's like day 3, and they've got a wait list already for people trying to get these. Like, the demand is insane.
It's like my local store sold through their collector box, like what they can reasonably accept to get for collector boxes day 1, just gone.
Yeah. Right. And
that's at a nearly Modern Horizons 3 price point.
Right, this is it. And my biggest concern with like Tarkir, like I'm really excited for Tarkir because it's like the first. It feels like probably the only in Magic set we're gonna get this year.
The entire
bearing
year.
in mind that Edge of Eternities is like, it's a space set. It looks great, but will it have actual magic? Like the thing where you cast spells magic. If it doesn't, then it's not going to feel like a Magic set. Whereas,
it won't feel like a traditional Magic set, even if it
and
is
that was the biggest
more
problem with Aether
Magic
Drift.
set than Aether Drift.
Yeah, Aether Drift wasn't a Magic set because there was no actual magic. It was just Hot Wheels, when you think about it. But Tarkir has this opportunity to be this really authentic, I hate saying this, but like an authentic in Magic set that's very traditional.
A traditional really Magic IP to use as.
Yeah. and it feels kind of bad that we're talking about Final Fantasy and pre-orders for Final Fantasy that are free. That it's like 3 and a bit months until release. We're recording on March 10th. And then you've got Tarkir, which is literally a month and a day away, and previews start on the 18th, by the way. And it's like, I feel like if you're going, here's this big premium standard set, which is going to be the best set of the year, not remotely close. It's going to sell better than Marvel, in my opinion. Which it might be a hot take, I don't know. You got this like really big premium standard set, and it's like, cool, shoot, I should probably try and like pre-order this early because everyone's going to want it, and FOMO's a really powerful tool to make you buy stuff. So people are going to be more picky with their standard sets. So stuff like Tarkir and stuff like Age of Eternities just might take an L here, just because this Universes Beyond set is just very consuming. It's a big deal. So like Tarkir looks great. It's got like 5 Commander precons, which is awesome. You know, there's a lot going for it. There's like the pre-release packs are back. Like if you ever played Khans, or like when you had like the seeded packs of the clans, that's really cool. But I'm just worried that like this set's going to be really awesome and people are just going to forget it because of this just massive shadow that is Final Fantasy, just kind of like overshadowing everything. And it's kind of sad when you think about it, because we've already had Lorwyn pushed back until next year to compensate for Avatar, which we found that announcement out 2 weeks ago as well, by the way.
Yep.
And it's
that also came up in that big,
in the Chicago like panel. And it's like people just feeling really hard done by it. It's just like Universes Beyond's now in standard, which is very mixed with people. You've had Lorwyn pushed back until early 2026 to make room for Avatar Last Airbender, so there's less in Magic sets this year. And then you just got this big like gravitational pull on Final Fantasy that could hit like Edge of Eternities and this really authentic Tarkir set, which people are really jazzed about because people love Tarkir. So it's going to be really conflicting for people, and people will just vote with their wallets because guess what? We're in an economic climate where people might not just have Medicaid soon, and they have to start paying for stuff. And it's like, yeah, it sucks, but hey, Hasbro must go brr at all times.
It's never going to end until it does, in spectacular fashion.
It's just like so as a fan of Final Fantasy, I'm really excited because I also get to work on the set, just like covering it, and that is really cool, and I can get really nerdy on some like tidbits and stuff. But on the flip side, it's just like, I get why it's at this price point. It just sucks. That is the thing. Like, I get it from a business standpoint, and from like licensing, I understand it, but it's just really sucky that the bottom line has to like pay for it in the product they buy.
Definitely agree, Emma. On that very high note, is there anything else you would like to leave our listeners with before we go?
Not really. I'm still playing Balatro, if anyone cares. In
In that vein, Local Thunk, the developer for Balatro, he has started a blog on his website, localthunk.com, and his most recent post is like, as best as he can remember it, the development kind of timeline for Balatro from like this point to this point. The funniest entry in the whole thing, it was like maybe 7-8 months out from release or so, or maybe a little farther than that. It was like, had a meeting with PlayStack kind of to fully finalize kind of like what launch content in the game will be like. And I said 120 Jokers. That was the end goal for the final version. And then we were in a meeting a couple days later, and someone at PlayStack, we were talking, and they said 150 Jokers. And I was like, did I misspeak in that meeting? Did they misremember? And then he was like, I think 150 is like a better number than 120. So I added 30 Jokers to the game. It's just so funny. It's just like, I can add 25% more content. Whatever.
It's fine. Apparently there's more Jokers coming in DLC at some point.
Yeah, that's kind of the sometime this year we're supposed to get a pretty big content expansion, which I'm very hyped for. Me too. I've played loads of Balatro. I love the game, but I've like, at this point, I've kind of gotten my fill of it. I still do like a run or two here and there, especially if I'm traveling on a plane or whatever. Yes. It's a great game for that. But I've kind of hit the wall of like, okay, I feel like I have experienced much of what Balatro has to offer me. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to more stuff.
I think the DLC is going to be great as long as there's an option to play it without the DLC, because I think some people will want to keep like the original Balatro experience. So it'd be cool to, like, if you bought the DLC, you can play it with the expansion on or off, depending on what you want to do. Because I know a lot of people do that with like Slay the Spire and things like that. But I'm excited. I've still enjoyed Balatro. Not unlocked everything or done all the Buster stuff yet, but it's still a great time.
Definitely agree. Well, that is all we have for this episode, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you haven't yet, go back and listen to Tuesday's interview with David, better known as My Hands Are Blake, and Jacob Paris, talking about their awesome Doodle panel and Doodle Showdown events at MagicCons. It's really interesting to pick some people's brain about kind of what goes into a panel, what goes into running some of the showcase events at the events, what they wanted to put into it, why they're doing it, all that kind of stuff. It was a really interesting conversation. And of course, we have another interview coming up this next Tuesday, so be sure to come back for that. And as always, we'll be here next Thursday too. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening. If you have feedback, would like to sponsor us, or would like to submit something to the Letters to the Editor segment, email me at editorial@heraldshorn.com. The show is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Cal Jones. The rest of the team is, of course, our co-hosts, Emma Partlow, Dan, better known as Moderately Anonymous MTG, and Lexi, better known as Black Girl Mage. We're having so much fun making this show. I hope you're enjoying listening to it. We'll see you next week.